Hey everyone, this is John Hansbrough with the LBL Group. We're here with Patrick Brown from Jellyvision. We're going to chat a little bit about what Jellyvision is doing with Alex on behavioral analysis and understanding how people make decisions and how they're using that to feed into their software and impact companies during their open enrollments, helping employees make benefits decisions, and a whole range of other things. Behavioral analysis is kind of this new cutting edge frontier, it seems like, in the last few years. So I'm excited to hear what they're doing with Jellyvision and what they've got in store beyond that. Patrick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Friday before Labor Day weekend. Looking forward to it. Taking Monday off and hanging out with the kids.
Nice. Yeah, when you're out in Chicago, so you're a couple hours ahead of us, but yeah, you're that much closer to the holiday weekend then.
Exactly.
Yeah, so can you share with us how long have you been with Jellyvision for?
So I've been with Jellyvision just over a year. Prior to that, I worked at a wholesaler for 3 years, and previous to that, I worked at Salesforce.com selling CRM systems.
Got it. So you have a background in the more digital tech kind of focused companies, rather than, some of us who maybe are in more of the benefit side of the business, which is just always, it feels like 5 to 10 years behind. You came from Salesforce, you came from technology. Does it kind of feel like, putting on, just like a glove that you're familiar with when you started at Jellyvision? What's the company like?
So I think I have a good mix of backgrounds. I started at Salesforce and definitely saw the technology industry and the innovation that goes on with there. I was selling specifically into other startups and tech companies when I worked there. And then I went over to a insurance wholesaler prior to that. So I have seen both industries. And yes, sometimes working in the insurance industry can feel like in the dinosaur era, you're 5 years behind in what everything's going on. So working at Jellyvision, I think, has been a great mix of both and brought in kind of my strengths from my prior companies into that. So I will say, though, I've seen some great strides in working with different agency partners and bringing technologies in and trying to catch up as quickly as possible.
Got it. Yeah. So for Jellyvision, do you feel like there's a pretty good balance between employees who are like just from technology, they have no experience with insurance or benefits, and then there's also employees like you who maybe do have some experience, because you're going to bring different ideas and things like that to the table. Like those discussions are probably going to be a little bit more dynamic because there's the reality of how things have always been done, but then there's also, you need people to kind of think about how they haven't been done and how they could be done, right?
For sure. Yeah, I think there's always the education curve to understand the benefit space. And we have a great mix of employees that are working and have come from both, especially some homegrown employees that started out right out of college and worked for 3 to 4 years inside of Jellyvision, understand the technology space really well. And then other folks like me who came over from the insurance industry, maybe from the carrier side, from the broker side, who are really giving everybody the insights into what's going on in the day-to-day for different consultants, for brokers, so we can understand both and bring that knowledge to everybody that we're speaking to.
That's awesome. Yeah. It seems like you guys have a pretty good company culture. I was watching some videos on you guys just catching up on things before our call. And there was an employee who I think she was previously in PR, and she mentioned that Jellyvision actually paid for her to go to a coding boot camp. And now she works as an engineer, as a software engineer. So that's pretty cool because, you're not bringing outside people, and it probably feels much more like a community, like a family because of that, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. The culture, I think, is one of the best parts of the company. Outside of having a great product that's helping groups and people make decisions on their benefits, the culture is, I think, second to none. Really, from the social aspect, the type of people that they hire, and then the encouragement that the company gives to employees to, one, share anything that's on their mind, whether that's a social cause that they want to broadcast out to the company, help raise funds for a charity, or help you really explore their avenues or grow as a person or grow in your professional career.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Jellyvision's obviously been around longer than before you got there, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the origin of Jellyvision, kind of what got it started, like what maybe the impetus was for the founder to, start this whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a couple iterations as a company. So we started out and our founder created Jellyvision as a educational television production company. He was creating educational videos for schools and libraries. And this was 20 years ago. And even 20 years ago, he would go in and see what was the feedback from these videos that he poured so much hard work and sweat into, and found really nobody was paying attention to them. And he's kind of getting frustrated. And so that led him down this path of behavioral science. What can I do and what avenues can I go down to just grab people's attention, the work that I'm putting into my product to make sure that people are getting the information I'm putting out there. Well, that spun into a video game company, which was still around. It's called Jackbox Games right now, but Jellyvision created You Don't Know Jack. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, created You
Oh,
Don't.
we've been playing so much Jackbox during quarantine. That's so funny.
Yeah, Quiplash, right?
So much Quiplash. Honestly, I can't remember the exact name, but the Murder House trivia party, that one's really fun.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been doing Zoom meetings and doing Jackbox. So that's like one of our, and because that's usually one of our go-to games that we play together just in person. So that's translated really well in quarantine.
You're not alone. I've actually been talking to a lot of other agency partners that have used that as kind of team bonding. Right now, we're trying to figure out ways how to connect over Zoom, and stuff has been helpful. So he started that video game company for You Don't Know Jack and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire when games still came on CD-ROMs. If anybody can remember that back in the day. So a lot of great success, but the video game company industry pivoted and games weren't coming out on CD-ROMs and kind of the trends were changing. And so he turned Jellyvision into a digital ad agency, and he partnered with Aetna, actually as one of their biggest clients. And the partnership and the project they were working on, Aetna had reached out and said, hey, we sell health insurance, but our own employees don't understand how to pick their benefits. Open enrollment's kind of lackluster. And through that partnership and through that project, and Aetna still being one of our oldest partners, Alex was created. And so we've taken actually all of these iterations of our company over 20 years, and we've been selling Alex in our current state right now for 13 and poured it into Alex. So from the behavioral science to the tactical humor, everything our founder learned throughout these different iterations of the company is all part of Alex right now.
That's awesome. Huh. So that's really cool because that was something that I think is just so valuable, right? About what Alex does and, all these things is that you have healthcare and how everything is talked about in healthcare terms and jargon. And frankly, the industry doesn't really try to make it very understandable for people, right? If you just polled, 100 people and you ask them, accurately describe a deductible, copay, in-network versus out-of-network, co-insurance, and all those things, it's really hard to understand, right? People understand their auto insurance better than they understand their health insurance, even though, the impact potentially is so much more gigantic with health insurance. It's just trying to make smarter consumers, basically.
Right. And I think the standard form of open enrollment education to employees is what their ask was, hey, you need to become a benefits expert on top of already working in the accounting department, already working on the engineering department. Also, make sure you learn about all your health benefit terms and make sure you're correctly picking the right health plan for yourself and your family. And that's why really, setting up these open enrollment meetings or these webinars and handing out benefits guides really has been, we're finding a less effective way to communicate benefits to employees.
Right. It's definitely a classic case of paying more attention to what's being said, right? What's being presented rather than what's being actually received by the audience, in this case, the employees, right? Because and we've all been there, right? We've been there where we're doing these presentations to dozens or hundreds of employees, and how much are they actually receiving, right? Sure, they heard this presentation on the high deductible plan and the PPO and, their, ancillary benefits and the life and the disability, but how much of that really settled in? How much of that was really received? Because the PowerPoint presentation with all just the numbers and the charts on it, it's probably going to be a little bit different than what Alex does and how that comes into play, right? So it's like when you guys are in there and you're using fun graphics and you got chickens in space or unicorns or stuff like that, right? I mean, it's a little fun, right? But then it's also making it a little bit more, I think it's kind of taking the tie off of these things, right? Yeah. It's kind of dressing it down and it's making it a little bit more informal, and it's talking how you might be talking with someone, after work over a beer or something, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a true conversation. Alex is going to speak to the employee and also ask for some input from the employee at the same time to make sure he's making that recommendation based on the current status of the employee's life. And what we're hearing specifically when we get to speak to HR groups or maybe brokers that are really tied into the open enrollment planning is all this hard work, pre-COVID went into setting up the calendar invite for an open enrollment meeting, maybe setting up lunch, setting up, donuts, whatever it might be, and really handing out the benefits guides and making them look great, and employees walking out and tossing the benefits guide into the trash, right? And then after the open enrollment meeting, it's 50 employees following up with the HR department, asking specific questions about what's going on in their life and really not getting any of the information that was handed out to them during that meeting or during that benefits guide, handout process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, that's a classic, right? Because we've all been there with just
Right.
like piles and piles of paperwork. How much is actually getting through to clients or to employees, right? Can you talk a little bit about some of the behavioral principles behind Alex? So what kind of is like the base principles that are used to inform how Alex works and how it's designed?
Yeah, absolutely. So Alex is not a passive educational tool, right? If you think about what's going on right now in our current world, everybody's working on creating videos, creating webinars where employees can zone off. You know, an email comes in, a text comes in, you're looking at social media, they're going to miss a critical piece of information. Right from the very start of the Alex conversation, he's not only going to grab your attention with some tactical humor, kind of make you raise your eyebrows and say, this is going to be different than previous open enrollments, but he's going to ask for active involvement throughout the conversation to make sure you get to the end of the recommendation. So wants to know estimates on doctor's visits, prescriptions, you know, any major surgeries coming up. All of this, he's asking for the employee to take part and interact with this. That goes into the behavioral science. On top of that, you know, we're going to throw in some funny animations, some humors to make light of situations. You know, if we're talking about, you know, accident, critical illness, and really heavy topics, but you know, let's make sure that, you know, we're lightening up just a little bit so the employees can, you know, not feel like this is as heavy, but it's very important throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's small, you know, even smaller techniques that go in there. If, you know, we see higher contributions to HSA savings accounts because we use techniques like anchoring, where we point out what you can max out into your HSA accounts if you have a family, if you're an individual, things like that. But, you know, we see employees, you know, they typically don't max, but when they look at the breakdown per paycheck, they can definitely contribute more to their HSA accounts because we showed them the max and then what it would actually be if they went to maybe a higher contribution level.
Got it. Yeah.
Yep.
So all those behavioral things totally come into play then, because you're just figuring out, you're basically thinking about, you know, instead of how does an insurance company want to present their information, you're starting from how do people make decisions?
Right.
And that's how you're designing things. So it's the reverse op process, but probably the better one, I would assume, because at the end of the day, you want employees who feel empowered, who feel like ownership over their decisions, because they probably are then much better consumers in general of healthcare and understanding their plans, right?
Exactly. So two parts to that, right? How do we get information now these days, right? We're working with a customer service complaint with a company. We can tweet at them. We can use Instagram. We can use a chat box that's available 24/7. I can call into Amazon about an order and get an answer right back in 5 minutes. You know, traditional ways of planning that open enrollment meeting, planning that webinar, telling employees when and how to get their information, I think is really getting phased out. So with Alex, he's available when that employee wants to talk to Alex about their benefits. He's available mobile, he's available on the tablet, regardless of the device. So that really plays into a strong factor of why we're seeing so much success and why so many companies are bringing him on. And then on top of that, I think Alex provides an educational component. So he's not just going to make that recommendation. He's going to explain to the employee in plain English why he's making this recommendation, and why it's the best fit for them, not only for their current health needs, but also wallet friendly. So he's taking a holistic view into what's going on with their paycheck and their wallet to make sure that he's making the best recommendations.
Got it. So, so we talked a little bit about Alex being fun and all that. What like data have you all seen? What experience or observations? Obviously, you know, you can have anecdotal testimonials. Do you have like data behind what happens once employees are a little bit more informed about how they're making their decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's really valuable to some of the brokers and consultants I work with is we have a back-end system to Alex called Alex IQ to show you the analytics, show you how many employees actually went to the conversation, how much time was spent in there. So right away, we're seeing on average across all of our companies using Alex about 12 to 15 minutes spent inside of a conversation, which we're pretty happy about. And, you know, eyebrows raised when we look into that. I mean, how much time do people really spend looking at their benefits? You know, I think last year Aflac put out one of their reports that 40% of employees would rather clean up after their dog than make decisions on benefits during open enrollment. You know, they understand the importance, but like you'd said, it's a tedious process. So getting them to actually explore their benefits, spend that much time, we're very happy about. And then we actually see hard numbers that go along with that. So higher contributions into HSA accounts. You know, I think the national average is somewhere around $200 to $300. You know, across all of our groups, you know, we're seeing contributions in the $600 to $700 range, higher rates on that. Alex can speak to 401k and retirement accounts, 401bs, things like that. So we see higher contribution percentages in that because, again, Alex takes that holistic view into there. He's talking about medical deductions. He's talking about HSA contributions and 401k. He's really laying it out so employees can understand when they hit retirement age, if I'm doing this contribution level, what is my savings going to look like? And then on the broker side, what we're really seeing, especially given the virtual environment we're all living in, is higher enrollment into voluntary lines and worksite benefits. Not only existing lines, but introducing new lines this year. Alex is very good at educating employees on how critical illness and accident plan might pair well with the high deductible plan. So really we're seeing these hard factors and helping out brokers and employees at the same time.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it's an investment for the employer because,
right.
If it's like, for the voluntary and the ancillary kind of stuff, right? If that's helping them reduce their payroll taxes, that's awesome. But they're also, I think, just probably getting more value and the employees are perceiving more value in their benefits once they understand it, right? Because that's always a conversation of, the company is trying to do everything they can to take care of employees, offer best benefits they can, take care of everyone. But if employees don't perceive value there, what really are they getting out of it, right? What value are they actually understanding? And so when they go through this whole conversation, it sounds like the employees, because they actually know what they have now, you got a much better idea about it.
Right.
What other things, like as part of the open enrollment, does Alex help with? So, health insurance and HSAs and all that are kind of the main ones. You mentioned retirement plans, anything else that they come into? What's kind of the most unique thing that you've seen companies use Alex to educate their employees about?
Yeah, so Alex definitely covers the basics: medical, dental, vision, HSA accounts. He covers the worksite benefits. We just announced a partnership with Livongo to help with diabetes and help employees, stay educated year round on their benefits, how to stay healthy, things like that. We see Alex speak to legal, pet insurance, and really promote that. And like you had said, communicating plans and benefits to employees is very critical because the best designed plans and benefit offerings to employees, if not communicated well, is still a bad plan design by the broker.
Right.
So we're seeing happier employees. We're seeing happier HR teams throughout. We had a client right now, Loyola University, based out of Chicago here. Their HR team brought on Alex a couple years ago, and they estimate they probably save 45 to 60 hours a year on open enrollment and onboarding throughout.
Wow.
So definitely, explaining these to employees and getting them educated, making them happier, in all aspects of the benefit. Alex can cover anything that a group is trying to communicate to their employees.
That's really awesome. Yeah. So one question that I had for you too is that with Alex, right, it's designed a certain way. It's got a certain look and feel, right? And like we said, it's fun, it's goofy, it's dynamic. Are there some populations or some industries where maybe that's not necessarily a fit? I kind of wonder if, maybe for some of your, the proverbial, law firm that's all buttoned up and wearing ties, some companies might be employees might be a little less receptive, or it might not work as well for them. Have you guys seen anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. We hear that, Alex is not our cup of tea, or the humor doesn't fit with the culture we're trying to cultivate at our company. And we definitely understand that he might not be the right fit for all your employees. However, I will say that, we work with plenty of law firms. We work with plenty of investment firms. PwC is one of our biggest clients. They've been using Alex for years. We work with a lot of Ivy League schools, and you think how prestigious those are. I think we have 6 or 7 of them right now, all using Alex. And so, yeah, for sure. Alex comes with a tongue-in-cheek type of humor, and it might not be for everybody. However, the benefit the employees are going to get by having Alex in place and help make those recommendations, I would always say, outweighs how Alex explains it to them.
Yeah. Well, and I'd imagine too, a lot of those groups, you're probably really selling to the HR team. The HR team might think, well, this is how we've always done it. We're not sure how it's going to land. I'm sure you probably have stories or experiences of a company not really being sure if it's going to work, but then realizing everyone wants to let their hair down a little bit and have fun with this, right? I'm sure that's come up before where some company thinks, oh no, like we want to be really serious about this and our employees wouldn't like it. And the employees go through Alex and they come out the other end and they realize that was pretty good. I liked that. Yeah. That was really fun. Yeah.
Everybody likes to laugh a little bit. Everybody's got a sense of humor. As much as you want your culture to be buttoned up inside of your company, exactly. Employees are always going to want to, and it's an anonymous conversation, right? You don't have to admit to somebody that you thought Alex was funny. You don't have to admit to somebody that you didn't like Alex if you really don't want to.
Hmm.
But we do hear it inside of that Alex IQ in the back end analytics. We always ask for feedback from employees. How helpful was Alex? And do you have a better understanding of your benefits? We have employees, fill out that quick survey, and we put a text box available in there. Let's hear some, comments from you. What can we do better? What didn't you like? We're able to share that with the HR team and with the broker so they can get some insight into just general reception outside of utilization and plan recommendations, things like that.
Right. So then they can tweak it probably and use that information in the next open enrollment and then just moving forward for new hires and stuff like that. They can
Yeah,
always just kind of be iterating, right? They can always be making those continuous improvements.
exactly. Yeah. And Alex is a great onboarding tool too. So we're seeing a lot of companies appreciate that right now, especially given the remote environment that we're all in, trying to sit down through several different webinars, Zooms, things like that for a remote employee might be tough, but Alex can speak to employees about onboarding, getting up to speed on their benefits when they come onto a company. He's available 24/7, 365 throughout the year. Qualifying life events, Alex can speak to that too. Or just general refresher, we were seeing during the year, a lot of companies bring on Alex mid-plan year just to make sure employees were well informed of what's going on with their benefits, trying to circle back, make sure that themselves and their families are staying healthy and they're getting covered correctly.
That's awesome. So, I mean, that perfectly dovetails into the next question I had, which was with COVID, with quarantine, working from home, remote work situations, has that affected, how I guess Alex has been implemented or how it's being used? So you brought up just basically having another touch point with employees mid-plan year. Are there other uses that companies are using it for? How have things maybe changed with this work from home environment?
Yeah, we're definitely staying busy is what I can say. Everybody's trying to figure out their strategy for the virtual environment and whatever it might be. Early on when everything started with COVID, we had a lot of companies that put a priority on their employees' health, even mental health. Alex can speak to that. They wanted to bring Alex on board mid-year to make sure they were promoting the benefits and employees were aware. And then right now, everybody is in different situations, regardless of where you're located in the country. Office might be partially opened. You might have a completely remote workforce like we are right now. And so Alex is I'm staying very busy, should say, just because they're looking to Alex to make sure the employees understand their benefits, but also deliver a consistent message across all of their employees, regardless of where they're working from.
Got it. Yeah. So with open enrollment season coming up, most companies are probably still virtual and remote. I know we are out here in California.
Yep.
I'm sure that's going to then be probably an even busier year than you've had in any year past. What is that looking like for you guys right now?
Right now, it's a lot of planning, a lot of us walking through demonstrations of Alex with the clients, with the HR teams, with the brokers, making sure they have a full understanding of how the tool can be implemented, how it can be customized to their benefits, make sure they can be a fit for the group, and then making sure we lay out a clear roadmap of how Alex can be implemented, when it should be implemented. Right now, we're right in the busy season. So, making sure that timeline's there, and then working with the client to make sure if they're going forward with Alex, here's some great strategies to promote Alex. So on top of getting the Alex tool, you're going to get recommendations and access to email campaigns. We have pre-made postcards if your workforce is completely remote at home to send out, promote Alex, things like that. Flyers, suggestions on QR codes if you're still in the office. A lot of, I'll call them marketing campaigns to your employees to make sure they're aware of their benefits in general, and then that Alex is going to be a successful tool for them.
Awesome. Got it. So, obviously we're in COVID right now. It's going to be here for a little bit. We don't know how long, but kind of longer term beyond that, just in terms of what's in front of Jellyvision and Alex, what else is coming up? What else do you guys have your eyes on?
So I think this is going to change open enrollment for the foreseeable future. We're already seeing Alex being utilized in that way. What do we have our eyes on here? Right now, we just rolled out a partnership with PlanSource, integrating into Ben Admin system and HRI system. It's our very first one. We're seeing a lot of success with that. So going through the Alex conversation prior to that, you still had to go into your Ben Admin system and make your elections. Now, not very tedious in my opinion. You're just taking 2 minutes to actually make your choices, send them off to HR. But now with Alex and the integration into PlanSource, when you have that conversation and Alex makes those recommendations, those decisions are fed right into the PlanSource system and they're ready to go, shipped off. It's a seamless process. On top of that, PlanSource will already feed information into Alex. So he's going to know, your marital status, your kids, or things like that. The profile that's already built into Alex will cut down on some of those qualifying questions that Alex asks up front. And we're
Yeah.
continuing to look to grow that partnership with all these Ben admins out there. I know speaking to different agency partners, Employee Navigator, East Central are a lot of popular ones right now. Continuing to try to get those APIs to talk together. That's something that's definitely on the horizon. We're going to be rolling out chat functionality. So obviously Alex is a great tool to speak specifically to, what is the best recommendation on, the medical plan, on dental, things like that. But you might have those nuanced questions that you're going to have to go back to HR. Well, we're rolling out chat functionality here for the employee to go into the chat box, ask those questions, make sure they get answers right away. And they're just continue to innovate here across a lot of different features, functionalities to make sure that, we're staying with the industry trends and the demand from employees and employers.
Yeah, that's really cool. So of those things or anything else not mentioned, which I guess is the most exciting project for you or the one that you've got your eye on and you're just like really juiced for? Is there anything coming up for you that, you're kind of anticipating as well of kind of being the wave of the future or whatnot?
Yeah, I definitely think the integration with the Ben admins right now, getting into a seamless process will definitely help us out, get everybody set up. But in general, the product of Alex, I think, is very well suited for what's going on this year and into the future. So I'm just excited really to be able to work with different offices and provide this product and see what fits for their employee or their groups.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that because like we've never had so much just like open conversations with HR teams where they're asking us like, what else can we do? How else can we improve in communications? What else can we do to just be like having that connection to our employees? Because that's such a hard thing right now is that culture is such a differentiator for a lot of companies. What's the culture, right? How are we having that time with employees or how are we getting things through to them? Or how is it feeling like, this is company A, not company B when we're going through all these things? Whereas right now, everyone just, it feels the same. So, we've never had so much openness for change, so much openness for new ideas from HR teams. And I'm sure you guys are seeing the same thing. So there's a lot going on. And yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Some of this is going to stay, right? And we're going to come through this and it's not going to be how things used to be. We're going to have some changes. And so the exciting thing is just seeing how all these communications and technology can just further help employees. So
for sure.
That's really cool.
I mean,
we have some time for,
Sorry, I was going to say the remote environment that we're in right now, I think we can all agree is not going anywhere. We're seeing more and more companies, not open their office till, end of 2021 right now, or going to completely remote saying you don't have to come back to the offices, right? So what does that mean now for employees? We're all going to have to deal with the distractions from home. So having employees come into a scheduled webinar and say, hey, make sure that your kids are taking their nap right now, that your dog's not barking, you're not getting a delivery, and that you pay attention to your benefits, that's gone. Regardless of what's going on in the world with COVID, I think that we're going to see companies allow employees work from anywhere, work from home whenever they want. The productivity, for most part, has actually gone up or stayed the same. So companies are seeing that, yeah, we can be successful letting employees work there. So why not give them access to a tool that's available when they're ready to learn about their benefits? The mobile usage and utilization on Alex has gone up crazy amount here on our end. That's because employees are sitting down on their couch at the end of the night, maybe with their significant other, having that conversation with Alex on their phone so they can learn about their benefits when they're ready.
That's awesome. So it was really exciting, Patrick. So thanks for joining us today. I don't see any questions in our chat box, but we'll make sure we get this posted and shared for everyone afterwards. If you got follow-up questions, Patrick, what's the best way for someone to get in touch with you? What's the best way to communicate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So just shoot me an email. It's pbrown@jellyvision.com. I'm happy to talk and walk through a demo of Alex with you or your clients, or talk more about our partnership pricing, what that looks like. I'm sure I've reached out to most of you already, so you might already have my email in your inbox. Just give me a call. I'm happy to set up a meeting and talk through it any way you want to, or provide any additional information.
Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, Patrick, have a great day. Have a great Labor Day weekend, and we'll talk. Oh, we had a, yeah. Thanks, Marco. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye, Patrick.